As we make our way through the webinar, our main goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools to successfully implement AI scoring with Aware in your local setting. And now let's take a quick look at the agenda that we will follow today. First, we will discuss Eduphoria's commitment. Next, we will talk about how to prepare to implement AI scoring, setting up AI scoring, reviewing responses, and the AI analytics dashboard. And with that, I would like to send it over to Jeremy to get us started.
So let's talk about Eduphoria's commitment. The first thing we want to discuss is how we're approaching AI and AI implementation as an organization. This is important because the very nature of AI and how AI is perceived is a topic that can be tumultuous for some and not so much for others. And after diving into that, and before giving you a full map of what Eduphoria will be offering to Aware Premium customers with AI scoring, we want to take the time to make sure we're covering some recommended practices to help you unfold this into your practices for your district. Now, I want to be clear. While AI has its ups and downs, we're really excited about these features, and I know many of you are probably really excited about it as well. The potential for some time saving by itself for this feature set is very exciting. But it's important for us to take our time and really talk through some important aspects of what is coming with AI scoring and Eduphoria. So I want to give you all just a second to absorb this slide before I dive in. We asked a question to our users through, I believe, our newsletter, and these were the results that came through in relatively short order. I'll give you just a second to kind of review that. As you can see, a large number of the participants in the survey show or at least feel that AI shouldn't be used to grade student responses in general. And then we have a smattering of some of the others where it's kind of dependent. Now, it's worth saying that the way this question was phrased may have triggered particular kinds of feelings in certain types of responses, and a different question may have resulted in a completely different set of responses. But it's clear that no matter what, it's likely that even if you don't fully agree with what's represented in this poll, we're here for a reason, and this tool is something that is kind of coming. So let's see what is happening to ensure that AI is implemented in a sustainable manner that doesn't lose sight of the students and the teachers and what's really important. There are a lot of people that can be impacted by the grades that are created by AI scoring, but this, like other things in education, just may be a part of a familiar initiative set of patterns that in the past decade or so, many of you have probably already experienced shifts in how grading practices work, such as standards grading. And like many things, this can be experienced as part of a cycle. There will be innovators and early adopters, and maybe you're one of them, but the majority of people will be later adopters and will also be those that are laggers in the entire adoption system for this and will be the last to adopt the change in these practices. Today, we hope to empower you with the knowledge to make an informed decision about how to apply AI scoring within your assessment practices because integrating AI tools into instructional routines should be done with great care. At Eduphoria, we have always valued the teacher as the most qualified individual to make conclusions about student performance. So even through our design of AI scoring, you will see that message ring true. So here's Eduphoria's commitment when it comes to AI as a whole, not just AI scoring. This isn't limited to AI scoring, and it's really about all potential aspects of AI that we will hope to continue to develop over time. Our goal is to equip educators with time-saving tools which enable them to focus on students. That's the point of our AI scoring solution. We aren't ever trying to replace teachers or administrators. We're hoping that AI scoring with a lot of input by teachers can help ultimately save time and then help you draw some conclusions and help you focus that time you would have spent just going through stacks of essays to spend more time with your students and helping them grow. I want to read to you something word for word from an internal document we're using to guide all of our AI decisions at Eduphoria. Eduphoria stands firm that AI cannot and will not ever replace teachers in the classroom. Our goal is to provide tools that help educators save time so they can spend more time doing things that really matter for their students. AI scoring provides an opportunity for increased efficiency, allowing educators to connect with students, provide enrichment, or conduct remediation based on the information gleaned from the scores. So this image came from a blog that we recently wrote on AI and encapsulates a lot of the main ideas surrounding AI as a whole. The scale picture here is apt as it really shows that there's a balance to consider between AI facilitating with accessibility, empowering users and stretching what they're capable of doing, processing and providing information, and then helping stimulate creativity. But counter to that are other considerations, such as the cost, both monetarily and resource wise. The caution with AI enabling behaviors through creative atrophy, if you will, or skipping critical thinking, and cautions around AI providing or feeding misinformation, and the ongoing debate over AI and copyright concerns. We won't pretend to have all of the answers to the problems, especially, but we can say that if used correctly, AI scoring can help with the accessibility, empowerment, and information pieces pretty handily. Eduphoria's approach is guided by our ethics commitment for AI scoring. So AI is to be acting as a supporting partner. Teachers remain the final authority in what we've developed. Transparency. Educators can review the rationale for why the score is generated. I'll show some of that here in just a little while. Data privacy. No student data is used for external model training or storage of information. And fairness. Bias monitoring and rubric alignment helped guide development. So now that we've talked about the general approach of Eduphoria and our commitment to educators, I want us to transition into talking about how to prepare to implement AI tools. At the beginning of this webinar, we asked you about your current district practices around AI in the classroom. Now let's identify and discuss system level approaches from about the 30,000 foot view. Adopting something like AI scoring is going to require a close look at your systems, and if it hasn't already been done, that may mean scrutinizing and updating your acceptable use and academic integrity policies, both locally in your schools, but also in board policy. It most certainly will mean training your staff if you want to ensure alignment and equitable practices across schools. So what I'm about to talk about actually comes from an ASCD article that we've linked at the bottom of this particular slide. So when you get this slideshow later, feel free to use that link. In Tony Frontier's article, An Intentional System Level Approach to Effective AI Use, he describes that middle and high school educators around the world are grappling with the same challenge. AI tools are here, students are using them, and educators must decide how to respond. As a consultant, researcher, and leadership coach working with schools nationwide, he has identified three common system level responses to AI. The first is the status quo response. With the status quo response, we block all AI tools on the network and the school devices, and we add a prohibition against AI to academic integrity policies. The second is the transactional response. The district pilots and purchases AI tools for teachers and students to use, then block non-approved tools, then modify acceptable use and academic integrity policies to allow staff and students to use the acquired tools at the discretion of each teacher. It sounded like, just at a cursory level in the chat with our icebreaker question, many of you are probably at this kind of response. Then there's the laissez-faire response, where we allow open access to AI tools at each school and delegate rules for student use to individual teachers or departments. To keep acceptable use and academic integrity policy largely unchanged. Each of these approaches has some merit. The first two approaches prioritize non-negotiables of ensuring safety and privacy, and the third demonstrates value for teacher autonomy. However, each of these approaches fails to provide teachers and learners with guidance and support that is necessary to navigate a world where AI tools are not only available, but unavoidable. So let's talk about the gap that Tony Frontier highlighted for us. His article describes a usage guidance gap, which indicates there is a discrepancy between the amount of support being provided to the amount of AI tools being used. To help close this gap, Frontier proposed that an additional system level approach, noted as the intentional response to AI, which was not on the previous slide, it is its own here. This model consists of four phases where we learn, we build capacity for staff to use AI tools effectively, we build capacity for students to use AI tools effectively, and provide ongoing maintenance and review. Today, you might find yourselves and your organization somewhere between phases one and two, if we're looking at this particular response, when it comes to using AI to score student responses. And further, AI scoring is only one possible application for this approach. So for example, Eduphoria's AI scoring won't have much of an impact on phase three, but many other AI solutions your students are likely already using have big implications across all four phases. This webinar and the resources that will be coming as a result of it and we will provide some sample activities that you can do that apply to phase one. You will also leave this webinar knowing how to prepare your staff for the information they need to use AI scoring and aware efficiently. So within phase one, the learn phase, Frontier goes on to outline three guidelines for teachers, which he believes to articulate criteria for effective use for AI tools. For example, when AI tools are used in an instructional setting, an educator must be able to first explain how the output has fidelity to established priorities for teaching and learning. Second, transparently document how AI tools were prompted and used. And third, explain the meaning of any AI generated content, including how the output was reviewed and revised and edited to ensure accuracy and clarity. With Eduphoria's AI scoring in Aware Premium, each of these pieces is evident. First, the district's maintain rather, local control of where and if AI scoring can be applied. This allows you to empower your teachers to apply this tool consistently within the right setting as you decide. It also allows a unified approach that can be explained to parents and other stakeholders if needed. By default, this tool is disabled. Though through this presentation, we're actually going to detail the decisions and steps that you should go through before making it available for its intended purposes. Next, Eduphoria has designed AI scoring with certain limitations in place, including that assessed items must include a resource with a reading passage. That's partly due to the limitations on our first release. This is another way Eduphoria supports you to create aligned and consistent assessment practices that give you confidence in how AI tools were prompted and being used. Third, as we previously stated, teachers are the most qualified to make decisions about their students' learning. That is why we ensure that teachers are able to review all data associated with an AI generated score and that they can also override said score if needed. This is clearly indicated with color labels in our scoring interface. We'll show you that in a little bit. And teachers may also revise any feedback and rationale that may be provided to students. This will allow you to co-create expectations that all teachers can use as guidance on how AI generated content, including how the output is reviewed, revised, and edited to ensure accuracy and clarity. Okay, whew, that was a lot, but it's helped us set the stage, and I hope it's also helped build a little confidence in how we as a company have thought our way through AI scoring. This isn't something we just decided to tack onto our system. We're wanting it to be a true value add in how educators evaluate student work and save time. Now, let's jump into our next objective for implementation. We want to look at formulating a multi-phase implementation plan, incorporating system-level AI principles to establish clear pilot and rollout milestones. In this segment, we're going to actually talk about things to consider to create the implementation plan for your district. So let's assume again that we're in phase one of learning for the intentional response to and use of AI. You may find that your district needs to engage in certain activities like establishing some kind of committee, decide how you will inform stakeholders of changes that are coming, and create training plans for the adoption of those new rules. So the recommendation is to get you started and build up momentum. Think about having a strategic and foundational review of all of your systems. What needs touched? What documentation needs touched? What development plans might need to be created? Establish clear local expectations and policies. Try to answer these questions. What is our intent of AI scoring? And don't just think about what is the intent of AI scoring as a whole. What is the district's intent of using AI scoring? What are the goals for the district in using AI scoring? What communication is needed across the district, and how should the community potentially be involved with that communication? What training or orientation is required for teachers? Answering those questions is going to help you get through that learn phase and into a more action-oriented phase. And then the last one here is ensure leaders have a deep technical understanding of the tool set to be implemented. Many of these actions may need to be front loaded and then will be revisited as you get to phase four, as you engage in ongoing maintenance and review of your local protocols. It's worth noting here that due to the limits of the available rubrics for AI scoring in Eduphoria at the moment, the ELAR teachers are going to be your target audience at first. We do hope to open short constructed responses eventually, and so you'll get a good practice round with ELAR before you unfold it with science, social studies, and what have you. Next step, let's move forward and assume you've completed the steps within the foundational review. What do you do after that? Now it's time to gather and review your resources. Each of your districts most likely have a local assessment plan of some kind. Even if this is not formal, there are expectations as to how assessments are to be delivered in a variety of settings, including daily assessments in the classroom, unit assessments, benchmarks at the district level, and even potentially state level assessments. Find these plans as AI scoring may impact all of those plans and procedures. Next is your professional learning calendars. We discussed in the foundational review the need to discuss and adopt some kind of plan for training of teachers and orienting them to AI scoring as a whole. Where in your development calendar is that going to happen? And if it's not a strict professional development day, is it going to fall in during something like a lunch and learn or through a released video that you ask teachers to review? Or is it disseminated to teachers via PLCs? Decide when and how the information and training is going to be given. That leads us into a timeline. At what various stages should the information and procedures be shared? Do you have district benchmarks coming up that you'd like to pilot with this? If so, how quickly are they coming? And how will that impact how you want to communicate and when? Do you want to open this up as quickly as possible for teacher assessments in the classroom? If so, that will have a different kind of impact. Likely, you'll want to do something where you have a test run of some kind, maybe on a district assessment where English language arts teachers are provided some kind of orientation and training. And then from there, you consider ways to open it up even wider. Then finally, you develop and execute your plan for disseminating those updates and policy document changes. We don't have to dive too deeply into that as that's part of the execution as a whole after you've made the plans for everything that we've discussed above. So now we can dive into exactly why most of you are here. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what to do to make AI scoring work in Aware Premium. And yes, I'll reiterate here that it is Aware Premium. If you are a district that is not yet upgraded to premium, please reach out to sales@eduphoria.net for more information if this particular feature set is something that is wanting you to really make that conversion. I also want to pause here and add a just really important note to make sure that this is especially clear throughout the remainder of this webinar. Eduphoria's AI scoring is entering into a large-scale beta or early release stage. We've done some piloting with a few districts to ensure that AI scoring works in general, but we also wish to communicate that we are eager to receive feedback from districts as you begin to use AI scoring. As I mentioned earlier, ELAR teachers are going to be your primary audience for training and communication at first. The reason for that is we have implemented the STAR informational writing rubrics for grades 3 through English 2. At the moment, these are the only rubrics that are available. We will be working in the future to add short constructed response capability, including customization of scoring rubrics, and adding the argumentative writing rubrics from STAR. Now, I want to just take a second to drop a quick shout out to a few of the pilot districts that have helped us with the AI scoring pilot. They worked quickly with teachers to get things moving through the system and to verify for us that things were working, and they've already given us our first round of feedback for continued improvement. This isn't every district that was involved in the pilot, but it is a list of districts that got back to me with the affirmative to let us drop their names, and that includes Sherryland, Aldine, and Birdville. Guys, we really appreciate you all and your help in getting us to this stage for this feature. The other districts that have been a part of this pilot, we appreciate you all as well. And if you get back to me, we'd love to plug you later. This is a great opportunity to also mention that as part of the beta phase of this release for all Aware Premium districts, we'll be very hungry for your district's feedback as well. But I'd like to ask that you follow like typical procedures and funnel that feedback through a singular person in the district so we can manage the information in a far more efficient manner. We may also be sharing a feedback form that we've used with one district in our pilot phase to get some feedback more directly. So be on the lookout for that. All right, the solution. AI scoring is with Aware Premium is a data analysis solution that helps educators save time, score, and provide feedback. Those are the main goals. Note here, none of the goals listed include replace a teacher. We've kind of said that before. We'll probably say it a couple more times in this webinar. It's about helping students and teachers with saving time and getting insight more quickly so that more time can be spent in the classroom with students doing the things that really matter. So here's our next objective. For this segment, we're going to be looking into how assessment managers can configure aware premium settings to ensure the AI scoring infrastructure aligns with local assessment strategies. As we mentioned before in the recommended practices segment several minutes ago, your district assessment policies, practices, and expectations are all going to be different from district to district. One district will want to use AI scoring for certain assessments only, another will want to use it more frequently and more broadly, and we'll have everything else in between. So let's explore what we've set up in a system to help give you some control at the district level on when AI scoring is used or is not used. Here are some general AI scoring guidelines. Remember, we're kind of in that beta phase of this release throughout the remainder of this school year. We'll be getting feedback from you as you use it, and we'll be working to expand functionality as we go. All of that being said, even when we're out of the beta, there are inherent benefits and consequences for using AI scoring. The first is the idea that AI scoring attempts to remove human judgment from the scoring experience and is not an exact science. That's just an inherent limitation of AI. There are a lot of various thoughts as to whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Recall the short survey results that we showed you before. There are a number of people out there that think AI scoring removes some of the humanity from scoring. However, there are also those that would advocate for the idea that sometimes the humanity we bring to scoring also brings an inherent bias with scoring and how that works. We're not going to say either way is right or wrong because both ideas have merit, but using AI as a whole is also not an exact science and has even created a new job type that never existed even 5 years ago, and that's prompt engineering. There are entire careers being born right now from learning how to prompt AI just to make it do exactly what you want it to do. Um, so each model has their own nuances, instructions, and can have different interpretations. So in the end, how do we balance this? We cannot give the answer, but you and your district can work together to decide how to best execute using AI scoring. Next, we've got the series of permissions at the district and test type level, which I'm going to be showing you here in a moment. Beyond that, there are permissions at the test and question levels to help control access to AI scoring. We're going to get familiar with that here in a moment as well, but consider how this functionality impacts your local assessment practices. When should AI scoring be used? Should it be all constructor responses for informational writing ECRs connected to a resource, only some of them? When is it best? For now, AI scoring, as we said before, is only available for constructor response questions, and even moving into the future, we'll be expanding functionality for constructor responses only on the near term. AI scoring is currently focusing on TEA's STAR rubrics for ECRs, and our first release will have informational writing for grades 3 through English 2 only for now. We chose this because informational writing has been overwhelmingly used by TEA in STAR assessments, and as such, we are controlling the AI scoring rubrics at the system level. We won't give districts control over the rubrics until we build out short constructed responses for AI scoring a little later in our roadmap. All right, so um, let's go back just one step here. When going in, we mentioned that the create local assessment test right at the district level is going to be what is used to trigger AI scoring. When we fully release this to all aware premium districts on the assessment gear, you'll notice a new option if you have that right called AI analytics. When you hop in here, the first thing you'll notice is this top right button that currently says disable AI scoring in my demo site here, but for you will say enable AI scoring. This is the first stop to saying AI scoring is going to be made available for our district. That won't automatically make it, hey, every teacher can now see AI scoring and we can use it. There are several other steps to go as well, but this is the first kind of like pipeline control. I'm going to come back and show you this dashboard a little bit later at the near the end of the webinar. After that, there are test type configurations that you have to look into. When we jump into configuring test types, there's another control that lets you decide which test types should and should not have AI scoring. So when you go into configure a test type, there's a new option right here that says enable AI scoring for this test. It should say test type. We'll maybe try to clean that up here in a little bit. You'll check that box and click save for every test type that you want AI scoring to be available for. This helps you really tightly control when and how it should and can be used. Keep in mind, these kinds of things, it should be a one-time activation and not a on and off, on and off, on and off kind of situation. So be very thoughtful about when you're turning this on and off. The reason for that I'll explain a little more deeply later, but we do not have an automated cascade from the top down. So be very careful about which ones you do turn it on for. It's also worth highlighting and noting that teacher test types for teacher tests, they also start with it off. So if you want teacher tests, the tests that teachers make themselves for their formative assessment practices in a classroom, you can enable it here and hit save for that test type, just like any of the rest. All right. We talked about the test administration settings. It's triggered, but is also finalized by the teachers. Teachers are required to actually finalize and submit the scores just like a standard constructor response, even without the AI. And the option to disable access to enter answers, which is a new feature we've introduced, will actually suspend access to AI scoring for that assessment. If you weren't aware of that feature, I'll show it to you just real briefly. Inside of the assessment administration under collection, we've added a new setting right here that disables access to enter answers for this assessment to teachers. This has been highly requested, but also keep in mind it will block your ability to do all constructor responses and text entry questions. So knowing that that is there, and if you want AI scoring to happen, this setting will effectively block that on those assessments. So be cautious. And then the student score summary should also be turned on so that students can access the feedback and the rationale that comes from the AI. All right. So you've done your pre-work. Now you're ready for strategic activation. I'm going to show you the teacher side here in just a little while. With strategic activation, we look at district access to create local assessment test rights. This right, when set at the district level, provides access to the ability to turn on AI scoring on or off the entire district, as I mentioned a second ago. So take an audit and verify who has access to that right. How will we work with and communicate with those people and what we expect to happen and when it should be happening when it comes to AI scoring? This right also provides access to the AI analytics dashboard. You want to discuss how the dashboard should be used and what everything means within it. After that audit, the communication to those users, it's time to enable the district to use AI scoring by actually activating it on the dashboard. And then once we're done with that, like we said, we've turned it on for the various test types. Now let's look at how to turn on AI scoring at the test level. Test settings in the online tab under author can make AI scoring available for an individual assessment. If AI scoring is available for the test type, this setting grants the flexibility to allow it on some tests but not others. Toggle on enable AI scoring for constructor response questions to apply AI scoring at the test level. If you do not see the enable AI scoring for constructor response questions toggle, then the test type for this test does not have AI scoring active. Who can do this? Anyone with the ability to author an assessment for the test type can do this. So for example, if you turn it on for a district level test type only, then only the users that can create tests with that test type can toggle AI scoring on for that test. If you turn it on for teacher test types, then teachers can turn it on for their teacher tests. When a test has AI scoring available, each individual constructor response question also has a setting to allow AI scoring for that question. This setting grants the flexibility to have AI scoring available for some questions, but not others, when it is critical for a person to grade a constructor response entry. Toggle on the enable AI scoring to apply it to an individual constructive response question. Also remember, due to the nature of how informational writing rubrics function, you can only enable AI scoring for questions that have been connected to a reading passage or a resource. Who can do this? Much like the test level setting, this is a toggle that is available for anyone that can author tests for the chosen test type if AI scoring is available for that test type. Next, the test author should select a rubric. Remember, for now, we're only providing the STAR rubrics for informational writing. The rubrics provide both traits for organization of ideas and conventions for a total of 5 possible points. These limitations are strictly limited by our UI at the moment, though, as I've said before, we do plan on expanding short constructed responses. We'll have and offer significantly more flexibility. So this as a whole is what it looks like. The test authors will select from a drop-down the designated rubric, and as a reminder, only provided by Eduphoria and cannot be modified at this time. When we do expand for short constructed responses, like I said, we'll have that additional flexibility. So here, there's nothing that can really be edited. You can only review what's there in the rubric. Notice in the GIF here that you can see both writing rubric traits, the development organization of ideas, and the conventions with the toggle or a drop down. And the test author can then explore the score levels to read through the rubric descriptors for each. We've also made this entire rubric available in the teacher enter answers UI. Now let's talk about the teacher experience. I'll start here by saying that in our current beta release of AI scoring is ultimately triggered and saved by the teacher in Enter Answers. This section of the webinar is potentially a great place to share out with your staff members that are going to be using this as teachers, especially if you have decided to implement with a small pilot group. So let's go through some of the specifics. You can use this slide to restate a few things in case a district uses this section of the webinar with like a teacher audience in its training. So feel free to steal, borrow, beg, use the direct recording, move it to this particular time slot. Teachers wear a number of hats when it comes to the impactful work when they do work with students day in and day out. So that is why our goal is to equip educators with time-saving tools which enable them to focus on the students. At Eduphoria, we've always valued the teacher as the most qualified individual to make conclusions about student performance. Even through our design of AI scoring, you'll see that message ring true. So let's set the stage a bit so that as a teacher, you have some background on how your assessment was prepared to provide AI-generated scores for student responses. First, the district engaged in a local review to determine if and how AI scoring should be implemented. Hopefully, this has included feedback opportunities with you and other stakeholders vested in student success outcomes. Second, your district developed an implementation plan that likely includes providing training on best practices with AI scoring, policy updates, and targeted rollout plans. The result of that planning may be why you're here. Next, district staff strategically activated AI scoring. While this feature is available to all Aware Premium districts, it is a default set to off. Once the district turns on AI scoring, they will make it available to a select group of test types, such as maybe district benchmarks. This decision was likely made during a local review step. Now that AI scoring is activated, it needs to be selectively applied to the appropriate testing questions. That means enabling AI scoring for identified tests, designing constructed response items, and linking them to reading passages and are using the correct rubric. We will talk more about the assessment design in just a little bit. Our next objective. Assessment managers are going to develop district-wide guidelines to maintain or to create human-in-the-loop verification to maintain teacher oversight in the scoring process. AI scoring, though it's very helpful to save time, should always still have a person on the other end, verifying that things are working and scoring as expected. A person should be in the loop from the beginning to the end. Here, we're going to cover the teacher experience. That is where you, the teacher, become deeply involved in this process. Before diving in, some of the information covered before overlaps what is critical for teachers. So let's recap just a couple of things. AI scoring is only available for constructor response questions. Constructor response must be connected to reading passages or a resource. It's best practice to ensure that the reading passage contains valid content and the question itself is a valid question. You cannot bypass the system by creating an empty passage and then have it grade a science constructor response question. That wouldn't make sense according to the rubric, and scores would not turn out well at all. And recall that you need to toggle on AI scoring at the test and question level before it can be used by the teacher. For greater detail, you can review the previous section of this webinar and the presentation and check out the article for using AI scoring as a teacher, which will reflect any potential updates. So the assessment has been designed with those key details in mind, and you have administered the assessment as usual. After the assessment has been completed by students, the teacher can go into enter answers just as they would normally to score a constructive response. After selecting a test, clicking enter answers and selecting courses, the teachers can click the score all AI CRs. This button will go and grab all of the fully submitted constructor responses from students and queue them up for scoring. There's no need to send them off one at a time. The cool thing about this button is that it will send off the responses that haven't been scored anytime you click it. So let's say you have a class of 20 students taking an ELAR test and 15 of them finish their extended constructor responses and submit. The teacher then can click that button and it will go ahead and score those 15 students. Then later, perhaps the next day, the 5 students that submitted it after the fact You click that button again, and it will go and score only those 5 students that just submitted. Please note, it can take several minutes sometimes to populate suggested scores, during which time the Score All AI CRs button will remain grayed out. Therefore, we recommend that you send some score requests in batches of student responses, perhaps once per class period or even once per day, rather than multiple times in one class period, just to avoid frustration. After completing scoring, teachers must still submit the scores to finalize grading the assessment and have the final scores appear within any of our analysis tools. AI scoring is also restricted for resending and to get scores again. Once it's scored, the score from the AI and the feedback and the rationale that comes with it, they're saved. This is to eliminate the possibility of just sending AI scores over and over again in the hopes that if you don't like what you see the first time, if I click it often enough, I'll get a different answer. As a safety and transparency measure, Eduphoria has built in various AI scoring statuses. When the teacher is looking for scores for students, the teacher will see 3 potential scoring statuses. The first, scoring, which indicates that scoring has been queued and the teacher can leave and come back later. Error, which indicates that something happened to the scoring, the student's response, and the teacher needs to take some kind of action. Scored, which indicates that the student response has been successfully scored. It's worth noting here that all scores are editable by the teacher in the Enter Answers page. As we've mentioned, the AI scoring is not an exact science, but we allow the teachers to be the final human oversight into the scores before they are saved and sent to quick views and then in turn to the students. If needed, the AI score is still saved, and the teacher can use a revert button. You can see that on the bottom right in this example to restore the AI score if it was edited and you decided to go back. When an error occurs, like we said, action by the teacher is necessary. So here are some of the scoring errors that you might see. An error that says unscorable. This is a generic error that can occur anytime there might have been a communication problem or there's something related that is more technical in nature. Error cheating. The large language model or Eduphoria settings actually detected unusual behavior in the response. That could be direct copying and pasting of the question itself and not adding any context. Then there's unprocessable, which means that the response was mostly blank or had random inputs, such as random symbols or just an IDK. And then we have separate error codes for sexual content, self-harm, violence, harassment, illicit activities, etc. If language is detected in any of these categories, each warning can appear independently, though it will still score it. I want to call out during the pilot one particular one, teachers were getting a warning on violence because the prompt and the actual passage in question that the students were answering required them to use the word kill in their response. In context, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the word kill in their response. However, it got flagged. This is a great example of how AI scoring is not necessarily an exact science. It's just a flag and saying, hey, you might want to pay attention to this one. It doesn't mean anything was reported anywhere or anything like that. It's calling human attention to it. And if you deem that everything's actually fine, you can accept the score and keep moving on. Now let's talk about the score rationale and feedback. After reviewing the score, the teacher is given the opportunity to review the score rationale and feedback provided by the AI. I'll go ahead and answer this question now. For the moment, the rationale and feedback is not available for quick views, the constructed response report, or any other analysis tool. It is limited to the enter answer space and the student to review if the score summary window is open. Once we release this, though, if that's something you would find really valuable, make sure you send in that feedback, send in those feature requests. The score rationale and feedback provides several sentences, hopefully tailored to language that is processable and understandable for the grade level provided. It should be related to how well the writing did or did not adhere to the rubric and how to improve the student's written response. You can see in the picture here, there's also an edit button where the teacher can open and edit modal and either add to or change the feedback before saving it and sending it to the student for review. Let's take a moment to talk about safety considerations for AI scoring. Eduphoria has done as much as we can to keep you and your students safe. Our communication pipelines and partnerships that we've created to provide AI scoring are safeguarded with every possible precaution in data security protocol and storage policy. However, there's only so much that we can do to monitor exactly what your students put into the system for scoring. Consider how you might work with students in ensuring that they do not put in personally identifiable information into their responses. As an example, students sometimes like to sign their name to the end of a letter if the prompt asks them to write a letter to, say, a city council. They may begin talking at any point during the response to provide sensitive information they do not intend to, such as maybe where they live, their exact address, or other information that shouldn't be floating around the internet. While our data pipeline for AI scoring is secure, it is safest and best practice to work with students so that they know not to put into their responses some of this personally identifiable information. Let's bring that teacher experience together into one bit here. Since AI scoring is not an exact science, we recommend that teachers review student responses to confirm that the given score is accurate. If the teacher overrides a student's score, they can recover the AI score by selecting revert if desired. The teacher can then review the score, rationale, and feedback to ensure it says what they believe it should, and then the score is finalized after the teachers submit it. Once the teacher has finalized and submitted scores and feedback, both of those things become available for the student to view in the score summary. In the screenshots here, you can see what the student should see. A score out of 5, the score for each of the traits. Then there's a button at the top right that lets them open up a modal to see the score rationale and feedback. This will only be available for the students when the score summary window is actually open, so be sure you get your students in there to see that feedback before those windows close. All right. That wraps up the current experience for teachers to score and review AI generated responses with Aware Premium. Let's shift gears back a second and let's talk about that dashboard. We're getting pretty close to the end, and we'll let us kind of wrap up, and then we'll start answering any unanswered questions in the Q&A. So, in our preparation journey, we talked about gathering and reviewing resources, and we've looked at how to go about strategic activation and use. Now, let's talk about the last step, monitoring and support. Now, how can we at least get a general idea of how AI scoring is being used and where it is being used? The answer there is the dashboard. I'm going to open that back up here and show it to you. The dashboard shows you at the top your overall usage for the entire district. Keep in mind that these numbers are mock numbers, so this is totally fabricated and made up. For the remainder of this school year, there will be no usage cap enforcement. This will purely be informational for Eduphoria and for you and your districts. However, I'll go ahead and plug that there will be AI caps that will start to be enforced in the 26-27 school year. We're going to include a very generous amount as part of Aware Premium. So it's not something that I feel like you're going to have to really hover over and monitor super closely. We're going to give 25,000 constructor response scores per Aware license. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll have 25,000 per school, and that school can only use that 25,000. That is purely an equation that we use to calculate how many AI scores we provide to your district based on your license counts for Aware. So if you have 10 Aware licenses, your district as a whole gets 250,000 constructor response scores using AI built into Aware Premium. We will have options to purchase more if necessary if you approach or exceed that cap, and be on the lookout for information on that as that becomes available. So this right here is really just to help you monitor that usage. Then we provide a table that can be narrowed down by date range. So if you're really interested in AI scoring usage during benchmark season, you can pick a date range to narrow this table down if you wish. You get a list of schools and you get a number that shows how many AI responses have been generated by school. You can slice this by test type as well and see how many AI scores have been done by test type. This is actually a error right here. We're not yet providing overridden as part of the beta, though we do intend to give it to you eventually. That will not be there when you get it live. And then you can also view both of those views by a graph. Note here that the graph does have some limited space. So if you're a rather large district with many, we've provided you the opportunity to actually search by keywords. So if you wanted to look for your elementaries or your elementary schools, you can change that view. And we give you options for sorting it. And then if you're really interested, you can click on a particular school and see the test types usage for that school. That's the AI analytics dashboard in a nutshell there. Now, I want to pause for just a second to talk about disabling AI scoring. Since there will eventually be usage caps, like I just mentioned, there's going to be a need to turn off AI scoring should your caps start to approach and you want to conserve some for a future district assessment. To do this, it does require that you disable AI scoring at the test level. There is not an automatic cascade of turning off AI scoring from the top down. We did that for a couple of reasons. But the primary reason is because we didn't want to put teachers in a potential error state when AI scores might be in flight or queued up and haven't been finished processing yet. We wanted all processes to finish before the pipe got closed. Rather than block those and have them disappear into the ether, we made it so that intentional decisions can be made to shut it off for current and future assessments, or current assessments and future assessments individually. If you did turn it off at the district level, after having it active for assessments for a while, AI scoring could not be turned on for new assessments that are created from that point forward. Um, Maybe a best practice to note here. Uh, think about naming conventions and schemas to help you find those assessments quickly if necessary. So as we near the end of our presentation, I want to actually share that Taylor McCoy, Eduphoria